Welcome to another episode, everyone. In 1994, in the Los Angeles County Jail, in the module 4700, the whites were viciously attacked by the blacks. There were not that many whites there in the Los Angeles County Jail at that time, and there are not that many there at this time. You would think that they do not commit crimes. The blacks outnumbered the whites, I would say, a minimum of 5-1, perhaps even more, 6, 7, 8-1. And it got so bad for the whites there in the Los Angeles County Jail that they had to be separated. I've said this before. They had to go into their own dorms and their own module because of the predatory behavior of the blacks against the whites and even some Southsiders against the whites. The whites had no structure. They had no organization. They had no numbers. They had no strength. The whites that were there were scrawny, skinny, some of them off of narcotics. They came to the county jail for a petty crime, stealing, to pay for their narcotic habit. And so these people are strung out. Or they are millionaires from Beverly Hills that are there for embezzlement or something of the sort. So rich white people are strung out white dudes. These are not skinheads and Nazis. These are not the whites that were in high desert that commanded and demanded respect from everyone. Again, high desert is where I learned to respect the whites. And it was necessary because they had to get that taste out of my mouth that I had, the vision, the image that I had of them that was really formed in the Los Angeles County Jail, with them being unstructured and weak and just being preyed upon by everyone, to the point, again, where they had to leave general population. The blacks there in 1994 were big, strong, steeped in gang violence and prone to violence. And they had a chip on their shoulder. Many of them had a black consciousness. Couple this with the fact that word had come down that during a couple of the riots in Wayside with the Southsiders, that the whites had joined the Southsiders and helped them in attacking the blacks. So the blacks are really pissed off. They're in there beating on the whites, robbing them, and in some cases, assaulting them in you know what kind of way. It was predatory, sickening sometimes. And the whites, well, for the most part, they were not fighting back. You had a couple of them in there that were somewhat strong, but overall, they were nothing to marvel at. And it was a dude there named Eslo in 4700. He was in a cell with a Southsider and a white. And he didn't like this white dude. The white dude was about 36 years old, and I think he was a rich dude. And he was in there for some sort of white-collar crime, if you will. And Eslo came out one time and said, man, something's off about this dude. But the Southsider had confirmed it. Said, yeah, I don't like this dude as a celly. Something's not right with him. But the Southsider just went on and minded his business. They didn't have any evidence against this guy that he was unsavory. It was just a thought that they had, a feeling. But you have to know who's around you, particularly in the cell with you, because anything that this person does can come back upon you because you're in a cell with them, even if they are of a different race. So everyone must be cautious. But they sort of let it go. A couple of days later, Eslo comes out and he says that he overheard the white guy on the phone talking to someone, essentially admitting to being a chomo. That the white guy was bragging about having relations with someone underage, a 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl or something. Now, when he says this, Eslo, I take it somewhat with a grain of salt. I'm a lot younger. I'm 20 years old. And I know that he doesn't like this guy. So I don't know if he's just putting a jacket on him or what. But Eslo, he knows better. He's been to prison, and he knows better than to just put a jacket like that on someone, even a white guy that he doesn't like. So perhaps he did hear something in the conversation. The blacks basically tell him, okay, well, try to find out what he's in here for, and then go from there. The next day, Eslo comes out and says that he read the white dude's paperwork when he had went to sleep. He crept over there, went into his property, the white dude, and read his paperwork. And that he was in there for something that was deviant. And that he needed to go immediately. So the black said, well, where's the paperwork at? Did you keep the paperwork? He said, no, I just read it and left it there. I said, why would you leave the paperwork there? Why would you give him the respect of letting him hold on to his paperwork? We need this paperwork to show his people, to show what he's in here for. Why didn't you take the paperwork? Or why didn't you just go upside his head right then and there? So Eslo's story is a little off as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure if this is all true or if he's just looking for a reason to pulverize this white guy who he has already made clear he does not like. The blacks decide to go to the whites, the few whites that were there, and explain to them the situation, that a phone conversation was overheard and that the dude is suspicious. He's suspect. Based on this suspicion, one of his cellies indeed went into his property, which, of course, is a violation. Rambled through his personal property, his personal stuff, got his paperwork, his personal paperwork, and read it. But however, now everyone is saying it's all justified because according to what he's saying he read, the dude is out of pocket, he's out of line, and is worthy of death. He must be deleted, unalived. Get rid of this guy. He's no good. The whites, the few that were there, are saying, well, how come you read his paperwork? And we haven't seen this in his paperwork. So the black said, well, y'all go get his paperwork and see for yourself. And then y'all get him. And the white saying, man, y'all shouldn't have went through his paperwork, or you shouldn't have. He said, no, I have a right to go through his paperwork. I'm in a cell with him. And if I need to know who I'm around. If I'm around someone, who's uncouth, who's prone to Neanderthal behavior, I need to know. It's self-preservation. And I had a right to be suspicious because of the phone call that I had. Before then, I had not went to his property until I heard that phone call and the dude started acting weird inside of the cell. Either way, it's all justified now because I'm telling you what his paperwork shows and says. Go read it for yourself. But the whites are being resistant. They're being reluctant to this. Again, they're harping on the fact that the black man, Eslo, committed what they believed to be a violation by going into their people's personal property and reading his paperwork. The unmitigated gall, the audacity of Eslo is what have them in the uproar. Damn you being in the uproar, we're upset. So essentially, they refused to go and check the paperwork. They refused to take Eslo's word that their people in the cell was out of pocket, out of line, needed to be dealt with. Their position was, you shouldn't have read the paperwork to begin with. It was none of your business, and your people need to deal with you, if anything, for violating our people's personal property and personal privacy. We don't give a damn what you claim he's in here for. Where is it at? Where's the paperwork that you said you read? And that's why I said Eslo should have kept the paperwork. And now it's just a big old mess. Because the whites don't want to get rid of this guy. And Eslo, well, he's adamant about what he read in this paperwork and adamant about the fact that this guy must leave his cell because of what he read in the paperwork. Whether you want to believe it or not, I know what I saw, I know what I read, I know what he's in here for, and I'm not going to be around him. He must go. I'm not leaving. This white dude's not about to get the cell over me in this Los Angeles County jail where we are dominant, big and strong. Although most of that violence and anger and misery is pointed and taken out on one another. There are times when we were able to come together, even then, form a united front and attack when necessary, and whom ever necessary. The decision was made. Eslo, since you read the paperwork, you don't want him in the cell, you attack him. You attack the white and violate him viciously. Meanwhile, we, the rest of the blacks, or some anyway, all was not necessary. Some of the blacks are going to attack the whites that are here for not attacking their people, for not even wanting to see the paperwork, for not disciplining their people, for not smashing their people, for his dastardly crime, his dastardly indiscretions, his diabolical ways. You're just going to accept this because it's coming from a black man, and your reasoning is that you shouldn't have been reading his paperwork anyway? True, but I'm telling you what I read in the paperwork at this point, so that doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there at this point. The only thing that you should be concerned about, as far as the blacks are concerned, is what we are telling you, what he's in here for. And again, they're not even asking that they take our word. We're saying, you just go in the cell and tell your people, give us your paperwork right now. Press up on your people and tell them, give us your paperwork, and you read it for yourself. I'm telling you what's there. If I'm wrong, then my people can smash me. I'm telling you what's in this paperwork. But they refuse to do it. And again, their excuse or their reasoning was because Eslo was in violation for going through the paperwork to begin with. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Either way, the die was cast and sinister machinations began to form in the black man's mind. And he made it explicitly and abundantly clear that Eslo was designated to get on the white who was in violation inside of his cell. And the rest of the blacks, or some, would get on the 10 to 12 to 15 whites that were there for their insubordination, their dereliction of duty, for not taking care of business. This was the reasoning behind it. Again, the climate was such that the blacks were already angry about the riots that had been transpiring there in Wayside in the county jail. And again, word had come down, and it had been clear that the whites had picked a side and were helping to carry out some of these attacks. So the blacks, well, they were waiting for a door to open to pay them back. The time had come. As the decision was made later on that day, when the doors popped at this time, you can walk to the child hall in the county jail. And when they opened up the doors, the cell doors, for the groups to come out and go to chow or dinner, if you will, the blacks ran inside of the cells where the whites were and brutalized them. They did attack them viciously. Some of it you can say they were just taking out their anger, or we were taking out our anger on them. Some people felt like they legitimately had it coming for not taking care of the business. For some, that was just a smokescreen, just an excuse to get back at them for helping the Southsiders, and hell, for slavery. Some people still carry that with them. Shit, I know all about it. And that's what happened there. And the police came and saved the whites, if you will. And I don't mean to disparage or denigrate the whites. But in the Los Angeles County Jail, again, this was not a tough group. This was not a structured group. This was not a racist, organized group as it is in prison. These are dudes coming straight from the street that's got a probation violation or that's about to get probation, that's never been locked up before. Again, that's in there for some sort of petty crime. Their family is rich. They're about to get bailed out next week. You know, they're millionaires from Beverly Hills and Calabasas. Came to jail in a suit and tie for some sort of fraud, and they're about to go home as well. They're never going to prison. These are the kind of whites that were in there. And they were attacked viciously for not taking care of business. The county jail is vicious, it's unforgiving, it's violent, and that's for every group there. Every group is under the threat of violence. Every group, every individual at all times. Because some will say, well, y'all just bullied them because y'all were so deep. I don't know. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Did the S-Loke have a right to go inside of his personal property and read his paperwork? Was S-Loke being forthcoming about everything that he read in the paperwork? Were the whites right for being upset with S-Loke going and reading the paperwork instead of being upset with the person that was in there for that, for what S-Loke was saying that he read? Should the whites had at least went and checked out the paperwork and saw for themselves, seen for themselves whether or not this was true, had any veracity to it or not? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.